boat about half a mile away. And it really brings home, I think, what marine organisms are having to deal with.
I really like the pasta
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Oh, that was really good.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, just very briefly, again, I'm sure a lot of you are aware of the Echoes app as well. There is there's a free version and a paid version. You sort of get, you can sort of upload different sort of quality of audio files, and also I think with the paid version you can see number of the engagement online as well. So that's what we did with Invisible Dust. But there's basically an online editor that allows you to edit a map, and then it just looks like Google Maps. You can see a little blue dot where you are, and then you can create these zones basically where you assign a don't know what the clicking is about, sorry about that. So you can design a map. So on the left-hand side there, that's the original map with Scarborough, so you can kind of make the zones as big or as small or as whatever shape you like, and there are different ways of triggering the sounds. You can sort of loop them, or if you walk out of the zone and then walk back, it will play continuously, or it might re-trigger it. So there's a range of ways of using it creatively, but this was quite a simple audio walk where you could just start at any point along Scarborough's South Bay, and like I say, listen to the sounds that are just under the water. And then we did a special version of this in Whitby, which is just about half an hour's drive up the coast. So again, has the same marine organisms in it, and same very similar soundscape. And we made there was a music festival there called Music Port, and so for the weekend we made a kind of a version of that as well. Those are some links, like I say. I'm sure there's ways of sharing those. But yeah, if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Rob McKay, for this insight in these very inspiring projects. There are questions?
Thank you so much. Really beautiful and inspiring. One of my questions is around climate grief, and especially I guess for the second project, I'm just curious if that's something that came up among young people in terms of the anthropogenic pollution, and if so, how do you deal with this topic as an artist, as a human, as an educator? Yeah, what's your take on it? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's a really great question. And actually, on the first day of that project with the sixth form college, we sort of ran it half the day in the classroom. So I did a bit of an introduction to the kinds of wildlife we might listen to, and talked a bit about frequency ranges as well, and how sort of small the human hearing range is, and you can see all the cetaceans and other organisms. But we also had a talk from Dorcas Taylor, who you saw in the first video from Invisible Dust, and she actually did touch on climate grief in that. And I think for me, obviously it's a really big issue, and the way I suppose I've come to sort of deal with it personally is this sense that we need to be hopeful still. And I think it would be easy to just think, we look at the inaction of governments around the world, and already it looks like we're going to exceed the 1.5 degrees, and it can feel almost to the point where perhaps we failed, we'll just give up now. But then what's the point in giving up? And I think there's always, well, in terms of purpose, a sense of trying to make a difference. And I think there are also technologies and ideas and concepts that we're not aware of yet. I think, that's my hope. So I hope that the projects, what I'm trying to do, I suppose, on that front is kind of two-pronged. One is that sense of, well, we can have hope. But I kind of start with just engaging people to have that emotional response. I think it was again at Balance on Balance, where we sort of the conference started with these different workshops. We had an acoustic ecology workshop, and I remember Nia Lockwood talking a lot about, well, we're not going to save something that we don't love or that we don't have an emotional connection with. So I think art has a really powerful role to play in that, in terms of engaging people with what's there. And hopefully you've seen on those two projects that's a really big part of that in terms of hopefully stimulating and awakening people's engaging with the world, but in different ways, in new ways, seeing the wonder that's there, seeing the beauty that's there. So I think it's all of a piece. It's all part of a big jigsaw puzzle. Yeah. Thanks.
I think you're doing the right thing, because kids are the hope for our future, and planting these seeds at the earliest stages, it's what we all should do, I think.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's been really nice to sort of have the opportunity to do that, I guess, as well, because I'm primarily a university educator, but I've had the opportunity to sort of engage with these younger children as well, and it's been it's felt like a real sort of privilege, and like you say, they are the hope for the future. Yeah.
Music and the arts out of the curricula, in schools across the world. We, at the university level, we actually have to then go into the schools, into the libraries, and do the work that people want to suppress.
Good comment. I think that's how we do it. Whatever avenue exists, like just get up and do it. Yeah. Thanks.
Firstly, my English isn't as well as I wanted it to be. Firstly, I admire the digital presence of the sounds and the picture. Amazing. But I'm coming from the other system, the school system. The projects, are they only separated from the school, or are they integrated into the system? Then you can help what Sabine said, that you open the system to the other institutions and you come in a dialogue, and you can perhaps sustainability, you can work sustainably. Okay, thank you. And you must come in a creative dialogue. It's a hard way through the institution. I know that. I know that really. But don't give up. But you must find the teachers, and you must find the systems to be on your side, that you can realize the things for the future. I think so. You must go the hard way. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I think that's a really, really important point. And obviously those two projects were, extracurricular. Certainly the Code Club, it was, outside of school time, and I guess the sixth form college was slightly more engaged in that. Some of the sessions, so I ran the first introductory session, and then we did some sound editing and composition sessions afterwards at the college. So there was an engagement in the actual space, and it was, what I liked about that was that we had students. Some were doing music, some were doing fine art, some were doing ecology and biology. So this is lovely sort of interdisciplinary sort of mixing going on. but there was an organisation in the UK called the Sonic Arts Network, and then that amalgamated with some other music, sound and music, organisations, and it's now called Sound and Music. And they, for quite a long time, ran a project called Sonic Postcards. And that was brilliant because they did actually engage with the national curriculum, and they ran projects which actually ticked a lot of the boxes that the teachers had to cover in the actual curriculum. So that was a way of really embedding that work and covering stuff within that. I don't think that particular project's running still, but it ran for, I think it was over a decade. It was quite a long time. It was really...
There are websites for Sonic postcards documenting that work, and it's very helpful.
Yeah, it's an easy one to remember as well, isn't it? Sonic postcards.
Rob, I think you used the word wonder, and I know whenever I've given recorders to younger people, they get incredibly animated and excited. And I just wonder if you could talk a little bit about the way in which that excitement and wonder perhaps drives, sensitivity and perhaps action within their own communities beyond the project.
Thank you. Again, it's a really good point, and I think there's sometimes something about, like say, giving them the recorders. Obviously, I start them off with a sound walk where we're just listening through the ears, but there is something about listening through the sort of medium of the microphone and the headphones, like Bernie Krause talks about that, and having this epiphany moment when you put the headphones on, and it's like that's kind of this life-changing moment for him. And then another 50 years later, he's gone around the world and recorded all these soundscapes and come up with the acoustic niche hypothesis and all of that. So I do think, yes, that the technology can be a really useful tool in kind of engaging that wonder. And even just that simple act of sort of using the microphones like a spotlight and listening in these different, to discover it really is, and then add on top of that using hydrophones or contact microphones, and you're revealing all of these hidden sounds. There is another project that Sound and Music are still running at the moment in schools called A Minute of Listening. Where literally every day, or maybe it's even once a week. I think it's once a day because it's only a minute. As school children are introduced to listening to all kinds of different musics from around the world, but also sound art and field recordings. So I remember a local artist, Hull, Jez Riley French, who specialises in makes his own hydrophones and contact microphones and various other things. You can buy them on the internet, and they've been used on BBC documentaries and things. He had the sound of some water snails in a rock pool. And again, the students listening to that, I was like, what is this? And then you realise, wow, they make sound. And I remember recording some tadpoles in a loch in Scotland, and they're just scraping away. And again, there's this whole world of hidden sounds, which again can engage that wonder. But I think, I guess the second part of your point, your question was sort of about the ways that you sustain that then. So there's that initial bit, but how it's sustained. And I think the Sonic postcards was good because it got the students to engage with other schools as well, so they shared postcards with each other, and it's the sort of thing that can continue. Again, I think the accessibility is a really important one. So all the software that we've been using is open source, it's all free to use. But I think there's still a lot more work to be done in terms of that sustaining. I think there's still work to be done there. Yeah. If nothing else, I think that's a really that's kind of almost the fundamental thing for it. Great. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Rob. We have otherwise time for other questions in the breaks. And now we start with break. The next panel session will begin at 2:30. So have a good lunch.
Yes, sure. Yeah, I've got a PDF which has, so we can do, sure, of course. Jez, oh, was he? Maybe it's just someone that looks like him, but obviously he's very close to it. Oh, cool. Oh, great. Oh, brilliant. Life of plants, is it? Or life of, yeah. Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, he really switched me on to all that stuff. His work is so interesting. It goes deep, doesn't it? It gets to places that other people wouldn't if you're just like, oh, that's interesting. Sort of like, it did that whole series on like burning nuts as well, isn't it? Like you kind of putting a probe on the end of like a needle and making the technology even to do it. Like